If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
Backs officially against the wall. It is gut check time for the Knicks. This is EJ Stewart joined by Tommy Beer. This is Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast, Audacy WFAN original. We got plenty to get to on today's show. We got a recap of Game 3, a game many Knicks fans, I'm sure, want to forget as the Knicks got blown out in Miami, now trailing the series 2-1. We'll talk about what happened in that game, how the Knicks were unable to get out of the starting blocks, and some of the big injuries, or at least one injury that happened in that game. We'll talk about Immanuel Quickley spraining his ankle in the fourth quarter of that game. He is now listed as doubtful for Game 4, so we'll talk about his impact in this series and whether or not he'll be able to make a return. And we will give you a full preview of Game 4, which is we're recording this Monday morning, so later today you'll have Heat Knicks Game 4. It's a close to a must-win, I think, as you can get here, as the Knicks trail 2-1. Going down 3-1 to New York would be really, really tough sledding for the Knicks moving forward. So big game on Monday night. A lot to talk about from Saturday. Again, Tommy is here. Tommy, how are you feeling right now?
That was ugly. No two ways about it, EJ. We'll get into the particulars and the details, the adjustments, etc. But they didn't compete. I thought they didn't compete at a sufficient level. Got punched in the mouth, didn't respond. Miami was consistently first team to the floor for loose balls time and again. Julius Randle did not play with the appropriate focus, attention, and intensity that they need. And they shot 8 of 40 from 3-point territory. You sum it up, it's a 20-point loss that could have been 40, but it's one loss. And as you mentioned, tonight, Monday night, a must-win game. They won the first must-win game, which was Game 2 at the Garden. They'll look to win a second must-win game tonight in Miami. So let's talk about it, shall we?
Yes, a big difference in this must-win is Jimmy Butler will be on the floor most likely in this game. So, yes, we will talk about that game. We'll also recap Game 3. Again, this is EJ and Tommy, Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast, Audacy WFAN original, a podcast you can get wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Make sure you hit the auto download feature on your streaming service to get these episodes. Every time we drop 3 times a week. So we got 2 more episodes coming. We'll have more recaps, more previews of the rest of the games in this series. We know we will have at the very least a Game 4 and a Game 5. We'll see if we have a Friday Game 6, but we will be here regardless. So again, Orange and Blue Bloods is where it's at. Make sure you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on YouTube. You hit us up, WFAN YouTube channel, Audacy Sports YouTube channel. You can get the videos of these episodes as well. So let's begin with Game 3. The Knicks once again trail in the Eastern Conference semifinals in their series against the Heat, getting blown out in Game 3. Final score 105-86. It was a complete flop of an offensive performance by the Knicks, who shot, as Tommy mentioned, 8 for 40 from 3-point range. Jalen Brunson led the Knicks with 20 points. Josh Hart had 15. RJ Barrett had 14 on 5 of 16 shooting. Julius Randle had 10 points on 4 of 15 shooting. He did have 14 rebounds. Heat star Jimmy Butler returned to the lineup. Did not play in Game 2 after spraining his ankle in Game 1. Comes back into the lineup, has a big impact. 28 points for Butler in this one. Max Strus had 19 points in this one. Bam Adebayo added 17. It was a wire-to-wire win for Miami. They took the lead in the beginning, never relinquished it. Took an early double-digit lead in the first quarter, and really never looked back. The Knicks really failed to compete in this game. The Heat led by as much as 22 points in this win. Knicks, meanwhile, struggled with their shooting, struggled with their lack of physicality, and struggled with their lack of toughness in matching Miami's energy from the start. So I'll begin with that, Tommy. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, and let's talk about the intensity and the toughness aspect of this game that they lost in Game 3. What happened on that side? Why did the Knicks look so sluggish?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can talk about, they're too quick to double team Jimmy Butler, Miami making adjustments, Spo putting Jimmy Butler on RJ Barrett, and Tibbs not effectively adjusting his route. He's basically running the same plays and getting, trying to isolate RJ Barrett to the wing as if it was Gabe Vincent that was covering him. So there are little things here and there, and you got to make shots. It's a make or miss league. All that is important. And maybe the 3-pointers would have been the reason they lost had it been a close game. But the
Right.
reason it wasn't a close game, and really for the entirety of the game, it seemed like the Knicks were down double digits, was because right from the very start, Miami, in kind of a continuation of game 2, which they lost, and basically since the start of the series, they they were the more physically imposing, the more locked in, the team that played harder, the team that played with more effort, and it manifested itself in a bunch of different ways. But I think, listen, we've done this podcast for 4 or 5 months now. We've given Julius Randle plenty of credit, and he's deserved
Absolutely.
plenty of credit for his
Yeah,
performance in the regular
absolutely.
season. We've argued he should be an All-Star. He was. We've argued he should be an All-NBA nominee this year, and he should be. He played fantastically well. 25, 10, and 4 in the regular season. Knicks
Yep.
exceeded expectations, etc. He's the team's highest paid player. Therefore, he gets credit when the team does well. And he deserves to be knocked when the team doesn't play well. And he deserves to be excoriated when he puts forth an effort that is just listen, if the ankle's hurting, then get him off the floor.
Mhm.
Listen, this is big boy leagues. If you're on the floor, you expect to produce, you expect to perform. He seemed to be able to go to the basket, and even though he didn't make his shots, his ankle seemed fine on the offensive end.
Yeah.
His lack of urgency on closeouts. 3 minutes into the game, leaves Max Strus open for a corner 3-pointer. A guy that's killed the Knicks this entire series. He got hot. Again, he got his first one. And throughout the contest, there were multiple occasions where it was jarring to see the lack of effort that Julius Randle played with. And that's inexcusable. He deserves to be called out for it. And it may seem like a little, and we know he won't, because it may seem like a little thing, but I wanted to, I this morning, I thought about it. I said, I want to make sure. So I'm going to do it in my first little soliloquy here. The fact that Julius Randle took the technical free throw
Yeah.
at the end of the third quarter I thought was just kind of emblematic of the things that have troubled of all the high points and the feel good stories around the Knicks. Like, I thought it was emblematic on this game with the Knicks getting blown out, Julius Randle about to get yanked, playing terribly throughout the game, both offensively and defensively, worse not playing hard. Somehow was allowed to take that technical free throw. I think reflects on the lack of accountability he's had since the moment he arrived in New York. And I'll contrast it with 5 hours later, whatever it was, the Laker game, Lakers Warriors 1-1 in LA, technical free throws in the second half. The Lakers have Anthony Davis and LeBron freaking James on their team. And who takes the technicals? Austin Reeves and Dennis Schroeder.
Yep.
No egos involved, no pride on the guy who gives the team the best chance to make the free throw, who's the best free throw shooter, takes the free throw. So, all that's to say, the Knicks have a lot to do. A lot of it, hopefully Tibbs makes some adjustments, but a lot of it's walking into the game and saying, we're not going to be out toughed. We're going to play hard and give ourselves a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head talking about Tibbs and Randle. I thought that this was a deeply unserious performance from those two gentlemen, starting with Julius Randle. You mentioned leaving Strus open. He had a closeout in this game. I think it was on Strus. That was one of the worst closeouts I've ever seen. I mean, I guess he technically ran the guy off the line, but he ran him off so easily and put Strus in such a terrible position, put the defense in a terrible position that it left someone else wide open for a 3-point shot. I mean, it was literally
Kyle Lowry in the corner
Lowry in the corner for a 3. It was like
you're right.
It was
Randle
like
runs, stiff, runs at him, barely makes an effort. Just
it's like when you're finishing your last suicides after your coach had you running in practice and you're just trying to get through it. That's what Randle was doing in that game. Now I don't know if it was a conditioning thing, but he was doing this from the first quarter. It wasn't even like he started out the game and then slowly he got worse. Like he was just not locked in at all in that end. And you're in some ways, I think when Randle looks like that, I think it demoralizes the team. Now it's not an excuse for the rest of the team to not show up, but I think when they see him kind of lagging around, I think they know, okay, this is going to be a tough one. And and because they know, I mean, they need Randle to produce. He's a very important player. We've seen that in this series already. So I think that when he comes out with that disposition, it puts the Knicks behind the 8 ball, not just because he's actually killing the team, which he was on Saturday, but also I think it's kind of a morale hit as well. And Tom Thibodeau, a disaster class from that coach. Start the game, as you mentioned, they put Jimmy Butler on RJ. and no adjustment to say, okay, our early game script of running the game offense through RJ probably not great right now because they're putting Jimmy Butler on him. Maybe you test him early because you want to see the ankle, but once you kind of see, okay, the ankle looks good, he looks like he's locked in. I mean, RJ got the ball the first play, Butler knocks it out of his hands off him. Heat basketball. Like, it was like, okay, Jimmy Butler is locked in defensively. He's going to be fine. And they kept running plays through RJ. I don't think it got him in a good rhythm because now he's doing something he shouldn't be doing, isolated against a guy like Jimmy Butler, where I think had he been getting maybe some open looks, some open threes, maybe some substantive transition, maybe he could have got his game going. So not only do you put yourself behind a ball because now you're not getting anything offensively, but then one of your best players who has been playing well got completely out of rhythm because you couldn't adjust on the fly to what they were doing. The substitutions in this game were so nonsensical because they were non-existent. Like, I can't stand seeing that team, that starting unit, look as inept as they looked as disinterested as they looked in both the first quarter and the third quarter, and no subs. I'm sitting there in third quarter, especially, like, you're sitting there and the Heat are the Knicks started off good because RJ Barrett kind of woke up and he tried to kind of get the Knicks back in. They cut it to 10, and the Heat go on another big run. Now you're down by 18-19. Hardenstein's the only sub. I'm like, where is Immanuel Quickley? Where is Quentin Grimes? Like, you're not – all these guys aren't making shots. We need to get somebody who out there can make some shots. And it was like Tibbs waved the white flag early by leaving the starters in. Like, I don't understand when – and I know he rides his starters. He trusts these guys and all that stuff. But I don't understand how you could see a game kind of tilting one way and still stick to whatever script you had to start the game. But Tibbs does that consistently. There were so many times in that game where the unit that was out there was getting outworked, out hustled, and you needed to make a change, not even just to send a message, just to try to change the momentum of what was going on. And instead, he seemed to be totally fine with them kind of continuing to sink into the quicksand. So it was a terrible performance from Tom Thibodeau. Randall was just as bad, if not worse. And the team followed. And those are two of the three leaders of this team. Brunson didn't have a great first quarter. I thought he tried to pick it up in the second quarter. I think he kind of did keep them in the game somewhat. But if you got that kind of performance in those two guys and that kind of lack of interest in kind of figuring out how to get themselves out of that hole by those two guys, then they weren't going to have a chance to win that game.
Yeah. Speaking of adjustments and rotations, et cetera, I think it's the heart and the starting lineup has finally run its course. I think
absolutely.
We talked about it prior to game 3, and I thought it was fair on your part to say, listen, give Hart one more game and kind of see where this goes. But now, you mentioned Brunson's offensive struggles. Obviously, he did compete, clearly limited by that ankle injury, which impacts his defense and continues to be a liability on that end of the floor. But one of the issues is just the lack of spacing, right from the opening tip when he's surrounded by Barrett and Hart. It's good. I mean, the weak side help is, the way, 10, 15 feet off Hart, daring Barrett to shoot 3-pointers. And it's because it's a successful game plan, which really crowds the paint. Barrett, Brunson's office is that 12 to 15-foot range where he can use his footwork and deception and head fakes to get looks, fadeaways, floaters. Those looks aren't there. Against Cleveland, I thought Cleveland, figured we got bigs, we got those two twin towers down low. We can prevent that. But, that wasn't the case because, Brunson had some room to operate. But Miami, they're going to have to, put Grimes back in the starting lineup. Bump Josh Hart to the bench. I think it makes the decision even easier, given the fact that IQ is going to miss game, most likely listed as doubtful, as you mentioned, going to miss game 4, which really leaves the bench, which has been badly outplayed, surprisingly, in the series, in dire straits. So this way you bump Hart back to the bench, kind of puts a little, support in that unit, without their kind of leader, their best player in Immanuel Quickley. And just to kind of try to change the vibes here. Things aren't working, obviously. Again, we've painted a daunting picture, and it should be so. The reality is it's not just that the Knicks are down 2-1. It's the way they've looked, outside of the final 5-6 minutes of game 2, they've been badly outplayed. It was Hart hitting those big 3-pointers and Brunson Grimes just happened to be on the floor, and Brunson making some baskets, and they were able to close out that game 2 win. Game 1, game 3, but just as importantly, it's the way game 3 looked. It's in a way, it reminds me of kind of the Knicks versus the Cavs in the prior series. Cavs
Yeah.
just looked outmanned, out physical, not ready for the big stage, not ready for the bright lights. And that's kind of the way that the Knicks have looked in this series. But I just will mention the last two times the Knicks have gone down 2-1 to Miami, lost game three and gone down 2-1 to Miami. They've won both those series. It's not common in NBA history, but 2000, Knicks went down 2-1, came back and won the series in seven. 1998, Knicks went down 2-1 in the first round, came back to win after losing game three, came back to win the next two games. So there's, obviously reason for optimism. It starts with tonight. Again, it starts with an effort. All's not lost. The Knicks have played well this year, just when you're ready to count them out. But again, they need to come out and play hard. And I expect them to do that. Then then it gets down to results and making shots, etc. But that's the first step.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen in these playoffs is teams coming out in games that they don't necessarily have to get and not playing with any real intensity. I mean, that's the one thing I try to remind myself, similar to what we were talking about during the regular season when the Knicks kept blowing these big leads. It was like, why are they blowing these big leads? What's going on? And then you realize, well, this is kind of just a problem around the league. Or when it comes to defending the three, it's like, why did Knicks give up so many threes? It's like, well, Knicks defensively, in terms of most of the metrics, they're actually one of the top teams in terms of giving up the three. It's just everybody. This is what's happening in the league. And this year, what we've seen is teams that are going into games, they split the first two, they go in that next game. If they don't need to get that game, they usually give a lackluster effort and they get blown out. So I felt like, and I hinted at it in the last podcast we did, that game three is going to be a really tough game, emotional game for the Heat. Jimmy Butler coming back, kind of an uphill battle. And, you'd have to kind of be up for the challenge in order to compete. Knicks weren't up to the challenge. Now this is a game where the Knicks truly have their backs against the wall. Season truly is on the line. And you hope you get a different result. But it's going to have to start with a lot more energy, a lot more effort. I think the bigs need to have much bigger impact. I think Mitchell Robinson I feel like he's been kind of neutralized in this series. He really didn't have much of an impact at all in game three. He got in early foul trouble, so that didn't help either. But he needs to have a much bigger impact. And I just hope that they're able to find a way to, get whatever they need in terms of that mental edge and ramp it up. This is a Miami Heat team that's just not going to give you anything. Like, this is not the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are one of those teams where you could punch them early and you don't have to worry about them for the rest of the game. And this is a different team. This is a team that's going to take punches and keep getting up. They're going to take punches and punch back, and then you got to get up. Like, that's what this series is going to be about. So if Knicks aren't up to the task, they'll be dispatched in the series very quickly. I think the good news is you're in a series where you could be down 3-0 and it's 2-1 realistically. So you say, hey, the series there's plenty right ahead of you. You win one game, it's best of three with home court advantage. So it all comes down to Monday being an important game. Before we talk about quick, just what do you see from Butler in game three? How did you think he looked? I know he started out the game strong. He did tweak the ankle midway through that game. He didn't seem 100% after that, but played through it, hit a big bucket to kind of like seal the game late in the fourth quarter to kind of show, hey, I'm still good. What did you see from Butler from game three?
Yeah, he looked good. I thought he looked, especially as you mentioned, started the game. I think that little tweak is a concern for Miami going forward. Obviously, I expect him to play game four. But should he, tweak it again? I mean, that's the thing you never know about these series. That's why you compete. That's why you hate to give up, postseason games, because you're only one ankle injury away. You're only one, Giannis falling on his back or Kyrie stepping on the referee's foot from really changing the dynamic of a series. So we'll see how it goes. But I just thought there's just it just as important as his offensive production. He's been otherworldly, obviously, this postseason, and and the series when he's been on the floor has been fantastic. But just that kind of confidence, that swagger, it's a difference between him and just kind of the out of control chaos of Randall, and and it just we talked about Quickley, and we'll talk about his struggles. Like, we haven't seen Quickley skip at all. Remember, during the regular season, he's skipping down the floor after hitting 3-pointers. We haven't seen it. Obviously, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? When you're playing well, you kind of exude that confidence, and you're eating pizza and chicken wings in the post-game presser, and we're all laughing and having a good time. and when things aren't that way. But with Jimmy Butler, even in game 2 when they're losing, he's standing and flipping the birds to the fans. He just embraces that villain role. But more importantly than that, when the lights come on and the game starts, he hits those tough fadeaways with the shot clock running down.
Yep.
And it's just a perfect complementary piece to all those gritty grinder, undrafted. Kevin Love was waived. There's just a lot of stories there of guys kind of overcoming odds, where the Knicks have kind of embraced that underdog attitude. The Heat have really bought into that, and they've proven it, by performing well in the postseason. So I think he looks good. Obviously, they need him healthy. They need they need him offensively. They need him defensively. But just as much, I think it shows the importance of veteran leadership. Lowry in the same respect. Calming the game down, hitting big shots when they're needed, but just kind of that attitude and confidence. You talked about, I thought that was a good point. You discussed how Randall's, those bad Randall games, those bad Randall moments, that bad Randall body language can kind of, infect the rest of the team. I think Butler does that the opposite way. It just kind of infects the Heat with happiness and joy and grit and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, he really helped them a great deal. He lifted their defensive intensity as well. Knicks helped them a great deal by just not making any open shots, pretty much. But still, I think what he set the tone again early on. First pass Knicks make, he's deflecting it off RJ Barrett out of bounds. It just set a tone for how that game was going to go. I thought he looked really good. It would be interesting to see how the ankle recovers from game to game. Now that we're going every other night that you're playing. He tweaked it in the game, didn't seem 100%. Made a couple buckets late, but that adrenaline will get you through the game. It's the next day and then the following day of trying to get ready to play again. That will be interesting to see. So we'll see. With Butler, you can't take any chances, though. I do think one of the keys to this loss also was the Knicks' defensive strategy on Butler. I mean, we didn't have this supernova Jimmy game. We haven't gotten one in either of the 2 games that he played, but the Knicks are still treating him like he's the 56-point Jimmy Butler that we saw in the first round. I mean, Brunson is double teaming off Strus one pass away to give up wide open threes. Like that can't happen. Like, you got to at some point trust your individual defenders. Like, if you're going to match Hart with him every minute he's on the floor, then Hart's got to play him. Or if you're going to put different guys on him, you got to trust that your defense as a team can stay solid. Because there are certain guys that you should not be leaving. Like Strus should not be getting left. Duncan Robinson should not be getting left. Like, if you want to leave Caleb Martin, you want to leave Vince and some of these guys, take a chance with those threes, that's fine, and see if they make them. But it seemed like it just seemed like there really was it didn't seem like there was really any strategy. Like, it just seemed like they came in with something of a game plan and there was like kind of no adjustment to how the game was going. And that can't happen anymore. Like, this is a Heat team that adjusts too well. They're too well coached. And everybody, including the head coach, is going to have to lift his game up in order for the Knicks to win this series. It's that simple.
I mean, that's the thing that I think has got to worry you most from a Knicks fan perspective, is that the Heat haven't really played an A game yet. And they comfortably have a comfortable 2-1 lead. They're shooting 31% from the Knicks are shooting an abominable 27% from 3. But the Heat are only shooting 30% from 3, that 31% from 3. Like, Strus is going to make more threes. Duncan Robinson hasn't had like a 5-point 3-point game yet. He's going to get hot at some point, or he played well in game 2. But just all around, like, there's just, and yes, I totally agree on the Butler thing. Too quick to double team. Listen, if he scores, 23 in the first half and, was up to 37 in the third, like, okay, let's adjust. And, but I really think they have to take the tact of let somebody else, he's going to, if he makes those tough twos, makes those long jumpers, you tip your hat to him.
Yeah. Gotta live with them.
Absolutely. Go underneath screens on Butler. Guy averaged 0.6 made 3-pointers per game during the regular season. Even in the postseason, he's making less than 2 per game. He's never been a good 3-point shooter. Again, if he makes them, tip your hat. But you can't leave, as you mentioned, easy open short corner looks. Strong side help off Strus and Lowry and Duncan Robinson, etc. Those are things that are going to get you in real trouble. So I agree with you. I definitely think that's one adjustment they should make. And, before we move on to the kind of quickly and going forward, just, we've talked about Randall, the 2 guys we've focused on a lot in this first segment, Randall and Jimmy Butler, obviously. I just think it's so interesting in sports, especially, how there are certain guys who perform well in the regular season, then take it to another level in the postseason,
Yeah.
Even if you match your averages in the postseason, your regular season averages in the postseason, that makes you a good postseason player, like
Yeah,
Jeter
absolutely.
was credited for doing that. I just don't know if there's two more contrary players, two great players in the NBA as Randall and Jimmy Butler. I was looking at the numbers yesterday. Jimmy Butler has, in his career with the Miami Heat, has scored 40 points in the regular season 0 times. He scored 40 points in the postseason 8 times.
Wow.
Julius Randle has scored 40 points in the regular season for the Knicks 9 times. He scored 40 points in the postseason 0 times. He's never scored more than 25 points in a
I was gonna say, has he even scored 30? Like I don't even remember a 30 burger for
Hasn't
him.
even
So
scored
yeah,
30.
that makes sense.
25 is his career high postseason. Granted, small sample size, only, relatively small sample size, but we got 2 years now.
How many games now? I mean, we have what?
12 games.
5, yeah.
12
exactly.
games. Julius Randle's regular season per game averages this year, 25, 10, and 4, I mentioned, on 46% shooting. His postseason averages this year, 15.3 points, 34 points on 34.6% shooting, and more than 3 turnovers per game. It's just and just to his in general, his 12 his 12 postseason games are just the efficiency and production, shooting under 33%, which is the worst of any player this century who's attempted at least 200 field goals in the postseason.
Yeah.
So just not a lot to like about what's going on. And at this stage of the game, we've seen good halves from Randall. Maybe we'll get one in game 4 when they obviously need it, but we haven't seen a great, postseason game from Randall. Maybe it's time to kind of adjust our expectations and just understand that certain guys are built to play really well in the regular season. They have a tough time performing in the playoffs. Certain guys are 16 game players, and certain guys are 82 game players. And that's the difference between Randall and Brunson, and maybe the difference in the series.
And speaking of bad Brunson stats, Randall stats prior to another stellar performance from Devin Booker in Game 4 for Phoenix, and they tied that series 2-2.
Yeah.
Devin Booker in the previous 4 games before Game 4 had made more field goals in his last 4 games than Julius Randle had made in his entire postseason career. 63 field goals made to Julius Randle 61. And like I said it. Knicks won that series, and I still never took it back. Julius Randle is not a postseason player. He isn't. Like I've seen enough. Like he's not that guy until he changes and shows me otherwise. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but this is who he is. He's a great regular season player. And we get to the postseason, you better have other guys that are willing to step up and produce, because he's not going to be able to give you that same production. Now, injury, mental situation, it doesn't matter what the situation. It is what it is. Everybody's dealing with stuff. Everybody's dealing with some kind of injury, some kind of pain, and he's been unable to answer that bell enough. So, and I do think there seems to be something about him coming back from an injury and being able to play a lot better than when he has normal rest, normal, turn back coming into a game. This is not a second time where he got hurt, came back, first game comes back, plays really well, and then next game looks completely disinterested, completely out of focus, and has another stinker. And like we saw that in the Cleveland series, and now we're seeing it again here. So I don't know what it is about his preparation that's allowing him not to be able to bounce back after the first game where he comes back and plays so well. But we've seen it now again where he just doesn't seem to have the right focus and mentality to follow up with these good games. And considering what the Knicks are asking of him, like he needs to do that. Like getting Jalen Brunson here in part was to lessen the load off of Julius Randle. He doesn't have to do so much ball handling. He doesn't have to do so much orchestrating. He doesn't have that excuse anymore. Like, we can't say, well, they asked him to do too much. They're not asking him to do too much. They're asking him to win his individual matchup. They're asking him to play solid defense, to rebound the basketball. And the last game, he only did 1 of the 3. He's not winning his individual matchup against Bam Adebayo, who really still isn't really imposing his will on this match, on this game, on this series at all. And he still is outplaying Julius Randle. And he couldn't make any shots, and so it's and he gave no effort, and he did no effort defensively. So
Worse,
yeah. So it's like I don't know what to say at this point. Like, we can't say he's being asked to do too much. Jalen Brunson is taking so much of his responsibilities, and we're still getting 2021 Atlanta series Julius Randle in the playoffs. So it is what it is at this point. But again, Knicks lose this one, and they had another big loss in this series as well because the sixth man of the year runner-up, Immanuel Quickley, could be out for Game 4. So Quickley left Game 3 in the fourth quarter after Bam Adebayo rolled into his left ankle. The team is calling it a sprain and has listed him as doubtful for Game 4. During the playoffs, Quickley has not been able to find a touch. He's shot just 34% from the field, averaging just 9 points, well below his season averages. He had 12 points on 4 for 12 shooting on Saturday. Tommy, can the Knicks win this series without Immanuel Quickley, or if Quickley is badly hampered by this injury moving forward?
I mean, you're talking about a tall order made exponentially more difficult. I will say the Knicks were able to beat Cleveland in 5 with Quickley playing poorly in 4 of those 5 contests. So I certainly won't say it's impossible. But I do think I think baked into the hope Knick fans had, start of the fourth quarter when it kind of, damn, we're going to be down 2-1, yada, yada, yada. Maybe Quickley will bounce back. Maybe, we'll starting now without Quickley for, assuming he doesn't play Game 4. I don't know if he returns in Game 5, which is Wednesday. Another only day off. Game 6, if needed, would be Friday night. So not just another one day off. Again, if he comes back, will he be at 75% of IQ or 65% or 80%? So can the Knicks win this series without Immanuel Quickley? Yes. I mean, technically they can. I don't love their chances, obviously, especially when you're starting from a 2-1 hole. But RJ Barrett makes shots. Josh Hart, contributes off the bench. Really, what you're going to need is Quentin Grimes to step in and step up in a significant way. I'm assuming he gets bumped into the starting lineup tonight. At least he should. And you need him to contribute offensively. Remember, this is a guy that played at an incredibly high level last month of the season, averaged 20-plus points, slashing 50, 40, 90. He has the talent to do so. I understand he hasn't made shots, but he also has been tough to find rhythm when you don't know your role and you're bouncing around the rotations and you're not a focal point of the offense. And the other thing is, this is going to open up a spot in the rotation, assuming IQ doesn't play tonight, for another player. I assume, there was talk that Fournier or Derrick Rose, completely unfair for either player, shouldn't even be suggested. Deuce McBride has earned the opportunity to step into IQ's minutes. He should play, and maybe you get and listen, I don't know if IQ is going to make a couple 3-pointers. They'll leave him open for a couple, dare him to shoot it.
Oh, it'd be Deuce.
I'm sorry, you're correct, Deuce.
Yeah.
Maybe Deuce makes a couple. You have to hope that he knocks down. Because again, they're going to dare him to shoot. But I know he's going to compete defensively, and I know he's not going to let Gabe Vincent get open looks or Strus, or you can throw him on Jimmy Butler. You can put him on anybody. He's been the Knicks, one of the Knicks' best perimeter defenders, basically since he arrived in camp 2 years ago. So for that reason, I think there's a glimmer of hope there, even if IQ is out and or limited.
Yeah, I mean, I think if IQ can at least be what he's been at times in this playoffs, which he's had a couple good games here and there. Like, if that means you're not getting any of that, which means, either he's not playing at all or he's completely ineffective, I don't think the Knicks can win this series from what I've seen. They already look like that they're in a pretty deep hole here, and losing Quickley for a significant amount of time where he can't even participate would be probably the death nail. So I'm hoping that this is a 1-game situation where maybe he can miss Game 3, come back for Game 4. The Knicks, could they come up and have a big game and win 1 game without him? Sure. But like, to go the duration of the series, whether it be 5, 6, or 7 games, it's going to have to be at least 6 if they're going to win. That would surprise me if the Knicks somehow turned around with a man Quickley having no factor. I do think Deuce should get some time, but I'll be honest, I tweeted it out. I'm watching this team brick shots after brick, shoot brick after brick after brick after brick after brick. And I'm wondering, do we got to throw Fournier out there? And
as you've called it, EJ, when he's been in there, he just like, and it's guy hasn't played in how long, so
I know, but like I think about that one game he had against Philly.
True.
And he got thrown in. I think RJ was sick, and he got thrown in there, and he had this great game. And I don't know. To me, we're all parsing through a lot of bad options.
The one night
exactly.
Game? Okay.
Yes, the one night stand. Like I just feel like you're parsing through some bad options here.
Yeah.
But the Knicks, I do know one thing that does have to happen. They're going to win the series. They cannot shoot 20% from three.
Yes.
Moving forward. 20% in game 1, 20% in game 3. Like those percentages cannot continue. They have to get that to at least 30. And Deuce McBride, is great as he is defensively, and I do think he'll make an impact. I just know I'll be shocked if he comes in and he's the guy that comes and starts making shots. And the way that he play, you would think that this is the team that Fournier could guard some of these guys.
Yeah.
Now he's had his problems with this team in the past, so maybe that's not the case. But it's just something I would start off with Deuce. But I think that if I was Tibbs, I'd tell Fournier, be ready to go out there if you need to. Because if they continue to just keep missing shots, you got to get somebody out there that can make shots. You got to give yourself a chance. So I would put it on the table. I think Deuce has got to get the first crack. And I think he would play even before Fournier does get out there. But I would consider, hey, if we're just not getting any threes to go down, like we got to get someone out there that can make a shot. I saw someone talk about Derrick Rose. I don't need Derrick Rose. I think Derrick Rose is kind of washed. I love the leadership he brings off the bench and the mentorship. I don't think that he's a viable NBA player at this point. I hope he proves me wrong because everybody loves D Rose, but that's just what I've seen from him this season. I know Fournier can hit some shots every now and then. So maybe one of these games you have a random. I just feel like we've seen the playoffs, these random situations where a guy who hasn't played a lot goes out there and has a big game.
Landry Shamet had 5 3-pointers in the fourth quarter last night. Didn't play in the one of the 2 prior games, and then all of a sudden has a huge game for
like these things happen. So like I keep looking at Fournier and say maybe he could be that guy.
Real quick, should Jokic be suspended tomorrow, EJ?
I hope not. I say no. Yeah, I hope not. I don't think they will.
Agreed.
I'll push and say I don't think that he should. I don't think that the shove was enough on Ishii.
Flopped, yeah.
Yeah, Ishii. I mean, he really sold it. Like I don't think that was nearly as big of a thing as the owner made it out to be. So I would say no. I think Jokic should definitely be fined.
Yes.
And like because you just can't. No matter who's there, you cannot be shoving people in the front row.
He's stupid to do it. He shouldn't have done it. If it was Bruce Brown, you want to suspend him for a game. If it was a regular season, you want to suspend him for a game to send a message. I can agree with that. You cannot suspend the MVP in the team's most important game this season.
But Jokic, as much as I love Jokic in his game, like he does have these incidents where he just kind of like, I don't know. He has these rage moments. Like
that was weird.
We saw it with Morris. I mean, a couple years ago with Phoenix, he got himself ejected. I think in the final game when they got swept. Like he has these things, and it's just like I don't know, dude. Like you got he has the times where he does lose his cool, and Denver's got to talk to him, like because he's going to cost him a series one of these years with stupid stuff like this. So he shouldn't have done it. If he gets suspended, I can't go crazy about it because it's kind of like the Draymond stomp. Like it's like I mean, you did the thing. So I mean, if the NBA decides to be aggressive and say we cannot give this any kind of slippery slope, say, well, this could be allowed. I can't complain. Would I do it? No, I don't think that it warranted. But put your hands on or put your elbow or a forearm on a fan, you kind of now leave yourself up to the jurisdiction of the league. So very stupid.
Who's going to win the series? Who you got?
I still got Denver. As long as Jokic doesn't get suspended, I'm still not sold in that Suns.
Agreed.
That Suns group. Like I think Devin Booker is not going to miss. Like that guy is going to keep playing. He might be the best player in the NBA. I'm going to go that far. Like I think when you look at least offensively, like I think he doesn't impact the game same way defensively. When you think about the best players, like I mean, Jokic who's looking great, and Embiid hasn't looked that great.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Durant's on his team, and it's very clear who the best player is on the team. It's not Kevin Durant.
Agreed.
Booker, maybe he's just on a crazy hot heater, but sometimes
I think that's it. I think he's bound to cool off, but I said he just can't miss.
I know, but think about, like, to me, this reminds me almost like D Wade in like the finals when they beat Dallas the first time. Like,
agreed.
If he's not the best player, he's ascended into the top 3 or 4 clearly from what we.
And then sometimes when you're one of the best, you can get on a heater that you play the best. Somebody tweeted it that he's the gap between him being the best shooting guard and the second best shooting guard is larger than the gap between the best player at that position and any other best position. And
absolutely.
He's making he's making that pretty clear. He's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell and Brown, good players, great players. I mean, they're not this guy. We saw Donovan Mitchell last series. He's not this guy. We've seen Jaylen Brown. He's a really good player, great two-way player. He's not this guy. This guy is he's really kind of hit his peak offensively. So that continues to be a great series. One last thing quickly before we get to the game 4 preview. Like, what do you attribute to his struggles? Like is he run out of gas? Like, what, like, are the defenses changing? Like, what's happening with him? Because like I said, 9.4 34% shooting. Like, that's not Immanuel Quickley.
Couple things. One, we will talk about it. Certainly, if the Knicks lose in 5, if the Knicks lose in 6, we'll see how it plays out. Does the playing guys a ton of minutes during the regular season, does Tibbs' approach, has that worn them down a little bit in the postseason?
Yeah.
Is Randall emotionally, physically exhausted? Is Brunson? Listen, the guy stepped on ankles. You can't blame those injuries. But, Brunson didn't have a specific injury. It's more of just a wear and tear thing. That's a story for another day. We won't get into that. So, but I say that to say, maybe because IQ was, really seen his minute again. The major complaint at the end of last season, the second half of last season, was how come this guy can't get 29 minutes a night, 30 minutes a night. This season he has, right from basically since the start of the season. So has he worn down a little bit? I personally think it's just we've seen IQ. He had he'll have a cold January and then be on fire for February, March, then slow down a little bit in April. Sometimes you get that with good shooters, not great shooters. The thing that surprised me about IQ is his inability to contribute, with assists, and so I'm not worried so much about the shots not falling. He's still really been a really solid defender. Was fantastic defensively in the Cleveland series. He just was really good. So I'll just, the one other thing we'll close with IQ is I can't help but think the Knicks, this presents a buy low opportunity for New York this offseason if they want to offer him a contract extension. I'm sure 3 weeks ago, a month ago, his agent was thinking $100+ million, more than that, in that type of range. If you don't want to meet my price, I'll hit free agency. I'll be the $6 million a year. Now, do you throw a low out offer and they come back at somewhere a little bit more moderate, and then they say, okay, we'll cave, but really get him below what they could have paid, in a little while ago.
Yeah, just like Julius Randle had that playoff performance in 2021, and the contract they got was, very advantageous to them. So we'll see what happens with IQ. Doubtful for game 4. The Knicks do have it a chance, though, to take back home court against the Heat in game 4 in Miami. New York comes into the game as a 4.5-point underdog, according to Vegas. Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, both listed as questionable on the Heat injury report, but are expected to play. This is an important game for the Knicks, crucial. Teams that go down 3-1 in the best-of-7 series in the 2-2-1-1-1 format are 9-176 in NBA history. So only 9 teams in NBA history in this format have come back from a 3-1 deficit. I was actually shocked the number was that low. And in fact, one of those teams were the Miami Heat because of what happened with Charlie Ward and PJ Brown in 97. So this is not it's something you want to stare down if you're the Knicks being down 3-1, but if they lose, that will be the scenario the Knicks will be in. So I'm assuming you think this is definitely a must-win here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the numbers. I don't want to. The Knicks want no parts of giving Jimmy Butler, 3 chances to win one game. So,
yeah, exactly.
It's just a team that fights as hard and is competitive. It's not like a team that's going to take a bunch of 3-pointers and they miss. They can go cold like the Rockets. Like the hard Rockets where you can run off some victories. I think if you just and more than anything, just for your own self-confidence, you got to pull out a victory tonight.
Yeah, definitely a must-win here. You can't go down 3-1. This is a Heat team that is so disciplined, so war ready, so battle tested that I can't imagine any Heat team especially the one that's which Bolstra and Jimmy Butler are blowing a 3-1 lead.
Right.
So you got to find a way to take back home court here. This is a must win. I think when you talk about keys to winning this game, I think one, it starts really with Tibbs. Like, I think that like this has to be his best coaching performance tonight. Like, I think that the adjustments have to be immediate. They have to anticipate what Miami will do differently. What's crazy about Miami is they don't play every game the same. Like, game one, they had a certain strategy. Then game two, maybe some of it was influenced by Jimmy Butler, but I don't know if it was. Like, game two, all of a sudden they come out in zone. And something the Knicks didn't see much in game one. And in game three, the Knicks see no zone. And they instead have Butler guarding RJ Barrett. Like, every game is different. So who's to say there isn't another adjustment that we don't see coming from the Miami Heat? Win, lose, or draw, they make adjustments. So Tibbs has to be ready for the adjustment that may come. He has to be ready to make adjustments. I agree. The Josh Hart starting experiment has run its course. There is no reason to start him anymore. Jimmy Butler has shown he can get his shot against anybody. Quentin Grimes can guard him. Just put him on him and get us that shooting in the starting lineup, because it will at least open the floor.
Yes.
He's a shooter that you have to respect.
I want 10 3-point attempts from Grimes tonight. If he makes
he's got to throw it up.
If he makes only 3, so be it. That may lead to 5 Jalen Brunson floaters, which gets points on the boards. And the thing about adjustment with Tibbs, my thinking, after game 3 was, it's like Tibbs entered, to use a football analogy, it's like, all right, we're going to come in. We played a team in week 7. We figured out a strategy here. We're going to run the ball just continuously. They were in a shell, dime defense. And what we're going to do is we're just going to run the ball down their throat and have success that way. You start the first play of the game and they got 8 defenders in the box and you still hand it off, dive after dive after dive. If it's not working, you got to start intermediate routes and throw some deep balls. That's what the Knicks failed to do. They were preparing for this one, kind of amoeba zone defense, and Gabe Vincent being guarded by Gabe Vincent, and it just didn't happen, and the Knicks didn't adjust. So those two things, and I think sliding Grimes into the starting lineup, getting him some shots is obviously key as well.
And one of the things about that adjustment as well with Jimmy Butler on RJ, which is why Grimes being a starting lineup is so important, is by having Hart out there, another non-shooter, Butler also was allowed to roam way more. Yep. So now he's in passing lanes, he's helping off on Brunson. So it made Brunson's life hell to begin with. So you got to get Grimes out there, even though Butler will still be on RJ. Having another shooter out there will space the floor a bit more. I agree. Grimes got to put it up. The one thing about IQ, I know he shot 4 for 12, but he saw a couple go in. And I was actually kind of saying, okay, maybe game 4 he'll break through because he's seen some go in. It was unfortunate he got hurt. Like, Grimes has to see some go in. It means he's got to shoot. He's got to get opportunities. So that's also on Brunson and Randall. Say, hey, they got to get him the ball.
Yes.
They got to trust the pass. Too often you're seeing both these guys just pound the ball instead of getting the defense moving from side to side, swinging the ball, and allowing the Heat defense actually to play defense as opposed to kind of playing an area, which is what we've seen a lot of this series. So, so the adjustments from Tibbs, they got to move the ball more, and the defense has to be a lot tighter. They have to be a lot more intentional. They have to be more intentional in what they're doing. So, Randall, when you're closing out, you can't just kind of jog out there. If you're going to double, you got to double really hard. But if you're doubling, the whole defense has got to be in tune. So if you're doubling off Strus, RJ Barrett, you got to rotate over. Like, everybody's got to be all in on the game plan. Also, we still haven't seen it enough. Like, they got to switch some of these screen actions. Like, there's no reason for when Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent are setting an off-ball screen that you're not switching that. There's no reason. There's no reason. So these are clear adjustments. The fact that they didn't happen after game 2 is a little alarming because it makes you think that maybe Tibbs is willing to live with some of this stuff. Now down 2-1, I hope that Tibbs comes into this with almost a game 7 approach. Like, whatever you've done, throw the kitchen sink into this game because you have to win this game.
Agreed. Compete. And more than anything, just play hard.
Yeah.
You'll give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned Mitch in the beginning, and I want to throw Mitch and Hartenstein in there. Like, they kind of need a big game. I think in some ways, like, they can kind of set the tone with their physicality, the way Jimmy Butler and Bam can set the tone defensively with the Heat. Like, I kind of want to see Mitchell Robinson, make some impact plays on the glass, maybe going after loose balls. Like, he's so good in the offensive glass. The Heat have done a pretty good job keeping him in check. Like, I'd love to see a big Mitchell Robinson game on the glass. And Hartenstein's got to come in and make a difference. We had Alex Donald last week, and he talked about the big difference Hartenstein made in game 2. He needs to have that same impact in game 4. And I feel like the Knicks are – I think this will be a competitive game. I don't think this will be what we saw in game 3, regardless of whether or not Immanuel Quickley plays. But I think the thing that will come down to is late down the stretch, fourth quarter, can they match the shot making for the Heat? And that's where Brunson and Randle got to make some plays.
Agreed. Again, the prerequisite is that they come out with the necessary effort, and no cheap shots, no foul, but you know, but just play hard and you know, the way they played for most of the regular season, show up tonight.
Yeah, I said it on Saturday. My decree, if I was Tibbs, is if you are injured, put on street clothes and cheer from the bench.
Yep.
If you are going to play, you give maximum effort every possession. Otherwise, you're gonna be sitting next to me. And that has to be the decree for every guy on the court. That includes Randle, that includes Brunson, that includes everybody. If you set that kind of mentality coming into this game, I think the Knicks will have a good result. So we'll see what happens. Game 4, Monday night. We're recording this Monday, so later on this evening. So it's a big one. Make sure you're ready, got your stuff ready. This is the biggest game of the season by far for the Knicks here. So we'll be back to talk about it as well, but that'll be it for this episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Tommy, let people know where they can find you.
At Tommy Beer on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, Action EJ. Again, this is Orange and Blue Bloods, a WFEN Audacy original. You can get these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Make sure you hit the auto download feature on your streaming service to get these episodes every time we drop. We drop 3 times a week. So we'll have 2 more episodes this week, recapping the games and previewing playoff games from this Heat Knicks series. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube. You can check us out both on the Audacy Sports channel and the WFEN channel, so you can watch the videos as well as the segments of videos from this podcast. So Audacy Sports, WFEN, where you'll find that. But that'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. For Tommy, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.